Uh, Susan and I talked with Ted Walter last week, and he suggested that we get in touch with Andre Rousseau and do possibly some sort of a call. And Susan brought up the possibility that you might be able to act as an intermediary, a translator.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. 100%, yeah.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Kevin Barrett can also translate it if he's willing.
Oh,
Yeah,
He's
he would
very
be a
fast. He's very
great guest to have.
I don't have Andre Rousseau's email. I only have his mailing address.
I can get you that.
Okay.
You want to get Andre Rousseau in now in light of this testimony by Maximilian Rupert? Is that it?
Well, we wanted to get his take on geology.
On the seismology.
Okay.
Yeah.
And seismology and geology.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how well I'll do with the technical terms, but I'll try.
I'll work
Okay.
with
All right, good.
So let's get started. Jean and Sandra, who I imagine everybody here knows who they are. Is there anybody here that doesn't?
I
John
don't.
Bottomley, maybe, or
Who are these guys?
yeah, right.
Yahoos.
Actually, I don't really know you guys, so if you want to give a quick overview, that'd be great.
Okay, that's what they're there for.
I'm listening.
You guys want to start off with a little historical perspective on the war room and who you are and how you got involved, and just, you don't have to make it too lengthy, but just help Henry
Yeah.
with the why you're here tonight.
You might start with your license plates.
You could bring those up.
Let me see if I can do that real quick. Let me stall for a second. That would be on song. This is your background still, isn't it?
Sanders from Montreal, Jean's from Pittsburgh.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty good at that, huh?
Yeah.
So, let's see. Screen. I guess it's just going to Brave. So we'll do this and share. So I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's my truck on the right. Been around New York, DC, all over the place. And so I'm just from Montreal, and both our license plate basically say 911 WTC7. She got around it because they wouldn't let her get 911. She did 9II, but that works. So
Yeah, no, what they didn't want is for me to have, they refused my plate at first because they said it contained a message that was connected to terrorism.
Oh,
And the II is just because I needed, those all had to be letters, so I had to go with I's instead of ones. But yeah, so I wrote a letter to make my case about how it was a legitimate request for a plate, because I worked with the families of the victims of 9/11, and yeah, I just stated my case, and they reviewed it, and they wrote back a letter saying, congratulations, your plate request has been accepted. So I had to fight for that one. Yeah.
Did you discover each other around this, or did you have the plate made after meeting Jean? How does that relate? How does that correlate?
Okay, well, yeah. The nutshell is that as soon as my province, Quebec, allowed vanity plates, and that I knew what the criteria would be, I knew right away it would be 9/11 World Trade Center 7. There was no other option. That was it. And after I made that decision, even though it was too early to apply for it, I started searching the internet for license plates that had 9/11 in them. And I came across this Pittsburgh plate. It was just a picture of the plate. And I'm like, oh my God, there's someone out there who has the same plate as the one that I want. And I searched high and low to find out who it was. I had no idea who it was at all. You know, male or female, young, old, lunatic or not, I had no clue. And it took a few months before one of my Facebook friends shared that same picture on his wall, and that's how I found out who it was. And I was like, oh my God, I actually found the identity of the person who has this plate. And I sent Gene a friend request, and he accepted it 9 months later. And then that's it. And then we just connected, and it took off from there.
Yep.
So Gene, which of those, if you could bring that picture back up, which of those stickers on your back window got you in trouble at the border?
Yeah, so was last year?
Yeah.
Last year I went to visit Sandra in Canada and got stopped at the border, pulled into Canada. They said, you know, we're going to search your truck. The 3% sticker on the bottom left, they said that according to the Canadian law, that is the most most extreme terrorist group associated to Canada. So they then searched my truck once and found, this is my activist mobile. So I have thousands of flyers and stickers, spray paint and posters and banner, everything's in there. My 4-foot high Jenga, just everything. And they tore the truck apart and said, it looks like you're gonna
You're coming into trouble.
You're gonna start a revolution here in our country. So all I can tell you is if you go back into the States and leave those there and come back, then we will let you in. So I go back into the Pennsylvania side, literally 50 feet away, and he said, well, because they searched you, we need to search you. So they searched my truck again. Then they apprehended my phone, searched my phone, then let me back in the United States. I spent the night, dropped the stuff off, went back to Canadian border in the morning, and they searched my truck another 4 times, once with a drug dog. I got on the phone with Mick Harrison, the litigation director for Lawyers Committee for Non-Violent Inquiry. He said, then try calling the State Department. Called the State Department, got a duty officer, and he said, look, if they didn't arrest you in the first half an hour, they're just giving you a hard time. So if you have any more problems, call me back. They held me for 8 hours.
Labeled you a terrorist.
Labeled me a terrorist. And then at the end of that ordeal, he said, look,
there was a reviewing officer.
Yeah, reviewing officer sat with me and said, at this point, I disagree with the original officer. If I wanted to let you in, would you still even want to come into the country? And it took me, that was a hard pill to swallow after all that time, total of 5 or 6 searches. I said, yes, I would, after thinking about it for about 20 seconds. And I got in the truck and I texted Sandra immediately and said, what's your address? I want to get out of here. And he said, his last words were to me that I recommend you take that sticker off of your truck. And I turned around to him and said, sir, I will never take that sticker off my truck now. So
why is 3% considered a terrorist group in Canada?
So for those that don't know, it goes back to the history of the United States when we had colonial times, the 13 stars around, and they said roughly 3% of that's what it took to educate about 3% of the public back then to get the Revolutionary War. And it's a patriotic symbol. It's about standing up for our Constitution and what this country stands for. And that's
but the message got derailed over the years, I think, and that's why it got a bad reputation.
Yes.
Gene?
Yes.
What does your sticker actually say? Is it a sticker of the US 3%ers or is it something else?
It's the symbol of the 3%ers. It's the Roman numeral 3 with 13 stars around it.
Uh-huh. So it's their actual symbol, the U.S. organization?
Yes.
Okay.
And it has gotten a bad rap, along with the Oath Keepers. They actually searched my phone and found a message to my mother for like 2 years ago saying something about...
There was a we in there.
Yeah, because I used the we, they thought that I was a member. And I said, they asked me, have you ever been a member? And I said, no. It was funny, about 6 months later, I go looking through my old paperwork and lo and behold, I did find a membership certificate. But that let me through. So that was that. So
Yeah, so we are devoted 9/11 truth activists that have
So
been
Jean-
around for a long time.
Why don't you tell us how you started, when you started the War Room and how it
that's
got
where I was going.
started?
Yes. So on the 20th anniversary, we had these weekly meetings to set up for the 20th anniversary, coming up with great ideas. One of which was the flying a banner over New York, which Boston at that point flew their banner over Boston. And Barb, thanks for your help with that. I think it was a success. They didn't fly it on 9/11. They flew it the day after. I think, well, I can't share that.
I can maybe take off the screenshot.
Yeah, but I can't share. Wait, I could, if you guys give me a second, since this is a
Well,
little bit.
yeah, I'll explain a little bit about the War Room. We had, when we were planning for the 20th anniversary, which was in 2021, we had a group of people, and we came together on bi-weekly calls and then on weekly calls for 6 months leading up to the anniversary. And we had formed such a connection with everyone, and we had made so many things happen that anniversary, that at the end, when the anniversary rolled around, someone said, you know, it's kind of sad to lose this connection that we have of coming together every week. And Jean said, you know, it would really be great if we just continued it under a different, it doesn't have to be the preparation for the anniversary. We'll just focus on activism and strategy and all of that stuff. And yeah, and someone said in that last call after the anniversary said, so when is this going to start? And I was thinking, well, you know, Jean and I have to prepare it, I have to set it all up, and I'm thinking in about a month maybe. And Jean goes, this starts next week. And I'm like, okay, then I guess we're running with it. And so every week since September of 2021, every Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's the War Room.
Yep.
And you can tell us more what it's about.
So yeah, every Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, we wanted to focus primarily on new news, strategy in the 9/11 truth movement, and activism, where we understand we're going to color out of the lines a little bit at times. We're going to talk about evidence, but not dwell on evidence because it just gets too thick into the weeds and it kind of bogs down the conversation, although it's definitely valuable information. But we want to focus on strategy and activism. So it's there. You don't have to participate. You can either click on the, if you go to 911warroom.com, there's an option just to click and take you into the Zoom link, or you can, as with any Zoom, just call in and just listen. We really wanted to make it, you know, just an informal way for people to keep up in the movement on new news. So.
Right, and the setup kind of developed a little bit over time. We didn't have this news thing early in the beginning. We just jumped right into the discussion, basically.
Yep.
So now it's developed a little bit more where Jean covers first the mainstream 9/11 news, whatever. We're always curious to see what the legacy media has to say. And then we go into local 9/11 news. So anything that's happening literally within the 9/11 truth movement, any recent developments, whether it's the Lawyers Committee or Richard Gage or now the IC 9/11, something's always going on somewhere. Someone who speaks out. When Tucker spoke out, that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we cover all of that. And then at 5:20, we always take a break for the daily 5:20 prayer that Jean leads. Just basically 20 seconds of just, you know, it doesn't have to be a prayer. It's just a matter of
whatever religion or non-religion that you are, just send out a good vibe at 5:20 every day that we want justice. So,
right. Right. And then we open up the table, and it, you know, from one week to the next, the discussion is different every single week, except for some people who always, you know, bring up one particular thing. But we open the table to anything that anyone would like to bring up and discuss that they think is relevant, something they have done in their own backyard. You know, Boston is the most active group that's out there as far as cities that you know, dedicate time and energy to 9/11 truth. And it's very inspiring to hear others and see what others are doing, feed off each other, get new ideas, that kind of stuff. So we'd like to focus on that most, but like Jean says, sometimes technical evidence comes up, and theories and whatnot, and any Zoom call that has several people on it will sometimes take on a life of its own a little bit. And we try our best. We really do. We try our best to give everybody time and a platform to say what they have to say in good faith, that it's really meant for the greater good. And not everyone agrees with everyone, and we try to navigate those waters as well. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. No matter what you do, there's always going to be someone who's not happy with that decision, saying we should do more of this and less of that, and not let so and so speak, and so on. But we honestly do our best to honor everybody.
In addition to that, I want to point out that if anybody ever wants to, you catch one of the shows, to go to our Rumble page. Actually, if you just go to 9/11 War Room, and down at the bottom of the War Room web page, if I can find it here again, let me just type it in, 911warroom.com. And down at the bottom, I put links to all of the former shows, mostly on Rumble, since YouTube has been so disgusting. But if you go in, after we do the show, I try to upload the show notes of any news articles that we reviewed for the week. And if there's anybody doing either pot shots, these are little jabs at the 9/11 Truth Movement, or a whole hit piece, the whole article's written to defame the 9/11 Truth Movement, we give contact information so that people could quickly just go in and send an email or a private message through Twitter. So I put either email addresses or contact forms or whatnot that you could reach out to those people.
And put them back in their place.
Yes. And for an example here, let me just find one. Vanity Fair doing one news article. This was written by Bess Levin, if it'll come up here eventually. And she didn't write a whole hit piece, but somewhere down in here, she said probably 9/11 conspiracy theorist. Yeah, he is also a 9/11 conspiracy theorist. So we're not going to let Bess Levin go unchecked with that comment and say, hey, it's lazy and manipulative to use that language. And just keep them in check. We're always watching.
Yep. So yeah, and so that's basically what that's pretty much what the show is about.
Yep.
Jean,
Any
how
feedback?
much time do you spend, would you say, in the course of a week preparing for the War Room? I've always been amazed at the amount of research you do, and your whole list of activities, and how much information you put out. And I always feel guilty because I think, my God, I could never do that.
Through the next week, usually right after the War Room, I go to work Monday, and I have the luxury of a pretty nice job where I can, throughout the day, take little breaks and do a quick news search. That's
So Jean starts racking them up throughout the week. Anything that comes up on any given day, he does searches for 9/11, 9/11 new, 9/11 truth.
Yep.
Any related words that might bring up a story. And he just lines them all up, and then he does a deep dive on Sunday.
Yep.
To find really all the nooks and crannies of anything he may have missed.
So the one we'll be talking about in the next War Room will be the Generation Z has latched on to Osama bin Laden's original email saying that justification for 9/11, even though we know that point G1 from 9/11 consensus was that bin Laden had nothing to do with 9/11. So we'll be talking about that. But I accumulate them through the week, and then I make a plan to be in my seat by 3 p.m., 2 hours before, and I start actually setting the tabs up and getting things ready to talk about.
It's a really nice presentation, and going through all the new news of 9/11. I relay a lot of that information into our Boston group, and it helps a lot to keep updated.
Mhm.
So
Well, the
keep
power
up-
of that to me is that it shows that 9/11 is still very much part of the discussion. Even 22 years later, people still refer to it. Of course, now with, everything that happened in Israel, and they're calling that the new 9/11 and so on, that, that's derailing our searches a little bit.
Mhm.
But yes, 9/11 is still very present. And I think that all of those examples illustrate how much of a historical impact it still has to this day, that people are still referring to it and speaking about it in whatever context they are.
And that our job is just as activists and advocates to keep banging that gong, keep planting that seed, and these little ripples, who knows what'll happen with that. This person might hear it and dismiss it, but they're still thinking about it. They saw it, they can't unsee it. So hopefully something's nurtured down the road.
Yeah.
I got some news for Gene that has to do with war room stuff, which is activism. And I made a couple more contacts on Tuesday at 19 Carter Street, which is Carter Street, which is a beautiful little church, or what used to be a church in Berlin, which is now a cultural center or like a meeting place. Some really cool people, and I always bring my my literature. I handed out the Papa full sheet and my 9/11 synthesis WTC 4 sheet to these two people. They were both really really interested. Both of them are like engineering types too, so that's that's who I can generally relate to.
Yeah.
Gene, you may want to cover the activities that you're involved in with Nick Harrison in Pennsylvania, and what you've done for Papa, which is exemplary. I mean, you really did all of the marketing for us, which we really appreciate. But you're heavily involved in a lot of different initiatives, and you may want to just touch on them.
Yeah. So the activists, just wrapping up with what Lauren said there, I know you guys do this a lot up there in Boston, but if you can get out and whatever display you have, however you like to do it, this is downtown Pittsburgh, Point State Park. I got the opportunity to unload most of my stuff, not all of it, but there's a tremendous more amount. But it's basically putting out T-shirts and literature and little gimmicks that people can see from far away, like this 4-foot Jenga. And people are, oh, do you mind if my child takes a piece out of there and puts it up? And then while they're standing there, I'm like, could that Jenga ever fall straight down against itself? And they're like, no, it would always tip over. I'm like, well, did you know a third tower fell on 9/11? And that sparks the discussion.
You should really bring up the cube, the laser cube.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, I should.
If you don't mind, well, we're just still talking about activism, street activism per se, because there's so many different kinds of activism. Gene is really a genius at finding new ways of displaying the message and getting the message out there. So of course there's stickers and posters and banners, but like last September, we were in New York. We were lucky enough to be in a hotel room on the 17th floor of the Millennium Hotel, which looked right out at the ground zero, basically. So Gene had brought his laser cube, and this was the result of that. He had set it up. You can find the green one, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if I can find that. We found a better font that would read better.
Yeah. But basically, we had set up the laser cube from our window. We found a crack in the window just wide enough that the beam could shine through. And he had programmed the message to be projected right onto the post office. And we set it up. We went out for supper. And already when we went out for supper, we went downstairs to look up close to see what that would look like. And we already saw some NYPD staff and whatnot, but kind of like shrugged our shoulders and went for supper. And we came back, and the NYPD truck was on the corner of the hotel with like 6 officers, and they were looking up at our window where they could see that tiny little green dot that was shining out the message. And we kind of rushed inside and took it down pretty quickly. And an hour or two later, someone from the hotel knocked at our door and wanted to know if we knew anything about a laser that was being projected. And I pleaded ignorance at first because I was looking out the door. I'm a terrible liar, and I was just, but Gene was he already caught on in the back, and he came up and he's like, yeah, no, that was us. And yeah, no, don't worry about it. We took it down, and there it is. Yeah.
No, chariot.
Sandra,
Oh,
Here we go.
Sandra,
yeah.
is there any actual law or regulation, federal, state, local, New York City, against doing this?
As far as we know, there is not, because
That's free speech.
it's not only that, but we're not desecrating a building. This is not graffiti. This is not even chalk. Gene got in trouble a couple of years ago because he put some messages with chalk on the sidewalk, when seriously, at the next rainfall, that thing's coming off, right?
That's actually right here. Wait, oh, I had it.
But as far as we know, and the hotel, when the hotel staff came up, when they asked us about it, they did not mention anything about legality or crossing any lines of any sort. They just said that
So why
it
did
was
why
making the
did you
hotel
take
look
it down?
bad,
Why did they say you should take it down?
because it was making the hotel look bad, and they didn't want any trouble with the officers from the NYPD.
So it's funny, you can see in this bottom left, as we were walking back, we have NYPD in blue and Port Authority in white, and we got one NYPD taking a photo of it. We have Port Authority guy pointing up at it. The other guy's on his phone. He probably already took his picture right back to the office.
And that's when we knew that we might be in trouble.
And we made it to the next corner, and there's a NYPD vehicle out there, and 4 or 5 of them. And she goes, "I'm gonna have a smoke." And I'm like, "I'm going up to turn that off."
And then I'm behind you.
So
One more thing.
what are those 3 streaks on the right? Those vertical streaks, almost near vertical
It's
streaks?
just my camera had some oil on the.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
reflection.
it's just a
Yeah, it's just
fact.
refractory
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
One more thing, Sandra and Gene did some graffiti painting.
Oh,
Previous, the year before, I think. I can't remember where it was.
Yeah,
but
that was last year when he was in Montreal.
Right. Now there was that one with the that you attached the thing underneath to that previously, that a face that was already there, and put a couple of
Right.
hands. That's just
It was
brilliant.
actually up. It was too high for us to reach it, so we couldn't really do anything about that. So Gene did his graffiti right under it, and incorporated it basically. Yeah, right there. So
That's one of my favorites. That's absolutely my favorite.
yeah. So that we left a little ghost man there, or
so
whatever he is.
the rule in graffiti is you don't incorporate somebody else's work in yours. But I couldn't reach up that high. I could reach up high enough to put. I said, I have an idea, and I drew this line and made his fingers appear like he's holding up our little
banner.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
So on that
Really.
note, also, these are legal
Legal.
graffiti walls that you're allowed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing anything illegal here.
So all of that.
Where is that, in Montreal?
That was in Montreal.
This is
yeah.
in Montreal, and then do I have the other one?
You should have them not far in there.
Little video. No, not there. Let me try the other ones.
Do you know if that one with a smiley face is still there?
That one was gone already, unfortunately.
And
Graffiti does not have a very long lifespan.
Yep.
You
so here's
know.
me in Pittsburgh, a legal spot we have. It's traced out my 7 and dressed it up and put on, I think there's another picture. Yeah. Put up a couple flyers, stuck them to the wall. Free fall inside job. And yeah. Just put that message in their head for the graffiti artists.
Yeah. And literally you have to sometimes you have, without crossing any legal lines, you sometimes have to literally color outside the lines. And get attention and do things that other people won't do.
Is the ethics of graffiti, did somebody come and erase yours and copy
Or they
over?
paint over it.
They just paint over it, yeah.
Yeah.
Paint over it.
It's kind of the unwritten rule in graffiti that it's going to disappear eventually. It's
Yeah.
no harm. Nobody's doing it to be intentional. They see that it's fresh, so they leave it. I thought I could bring it up, but unfortunately I cannot find it.
I'd like to remind people what happened when I put up the third beam on the 9th anniversary, the night of the 9th anniversary. Most people in the movement who weren't there don't know this, but in the back of the truck, when I pressed the buttons on the 4 generators and it whooshed up into the sky, a 2 billion power beam. It was up for, I'm guessing, maybe 10 or 15 minutes when, believe it or not, the city of New York suddenly took down their 2 beams. So it would no longer be a third beam.
Oh,
Did
it's
you know
these
that?
activist things that I love. Things where we're thinking outside the box to raise awareness. This third beam idea was fantastic. So that's what kind of inspired me to do the beam out the window on the post office. So thanks, Barb, for that
Well,
inspiration.
That was my vision, and now you have a great vision too.
Yep.
Gene, do you have a picture of your, with a group in New York, on the sidewalk with you with a bullhorn and just sort of a general picture of how many people you garnered for that?
So
Some pictures from
The third
ground
beam, or
zero. Well,
this is last year. The crowds are small, but we still got the diehards there. And then one of these here. Oh, there's the graffiti.
yeah, there's
Here's the other graffiti spot in Quebec that we did, another legal wall. The first night I just put up the smiley fit or the 7. And then I thought I had this great idea of making these each panels peace, love, and happiness with 7 in it. And that was good. The other group photo. Oh, and we left it there on purpose, the smiley face, because it was right under the street light. So this like glowed down the street. It was fantastic. And I thought I had a group photo of us all. I guess not.
the anniversary. Yeah.
Let me see. Give me 1 second. I have 9/11. What year was that?
Well, 20th, if the 20th has
You had a lot of pictures of the 20th.
That's the anniversary videos. I got.
can you tell us who's in this photo? Do you know? I mean, someone here.
Yeah, well,
On this
all
one?
the way to the left, I don't know that lady. Then there's
Joe Friday.
Joe Friendly.
Friendly.
So friendly.
Eric, who's a friend of Deb's. They work very closely together.
Don't
And
know
that's
his
Deb.
name.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's Deb next to him. Yeah.
I'm not sure who
Deb
this gentleman is. Obviously Richard and Gail and Sandra and myself, Ross Muir, Kat Waters, Rebecca Fusco. Forgot this gentleman's name, and it's Rob.
Bob. Yeah, Bob.
Who's on the right? Who's on the right?
I think his name is Rob. He's a local. Most of these guys are local.
Uh-huh.
This guy was fantastic.
Yeah.
When the tourist bus came up, or even a firefighter's truck, he'd walk up and just, if they wouldn't take it, he threw the literature in their window.
It was one of those double deckers that had no roof, and there was tourists on. He literally climbed up and just like threw in some flyers, and he was all over the place. He was not afraid to walk up to people and just put stuff in their hands. I mean, even that's the thing. We're all such different activists, and it shows in so many ways. Some people are more comfortable behind a keyboard. Some people enjoy the contact with people one-on-one in the street. Gene is very, very comfortable standing there with his bullhorn and shouting a message for 5 hours, whether it's about the lawyers committee or about architects and engineers or just about the evidence and so on. And but he doesn't like so much coming face to face with people, so he leaves that to the people who like doing that part and having discussions with individuals as they're walking by.
This was the 20th anniversary. forgot his name. He's popular. We got Xander. I'll
Yeah.
just mention the ones that I know. Xander Arena, Les Jameson, again, Joe Friendly. Friday. Dang it. Sandra and myself. There's Albert Lucientes, Artie Devlin,
Eileen Coles.
Eileen
That's
Cools,
John Wright.
John
What?
Wright, yes, thank you. Ken Viverito, Deb Lee, Mike Arnold, Ross Muir, and Sean Nagel.
Yeah. Glenn Zarmanov is the first
Glenn
one.
Zarmanov, that's
Yeah.
it. And then there were some people up the street, Augie and Stephanie. They're there every year. What's really neat about Augie and Stephanie, and we complement each other well. If I could bring, let's see, Morgan Nolan. Let's see, where is it?
Oh, wait, go back for a second. I have to mention, no, this one.
Yeah.
Michael Laurie, he passed away pretty much exactly a year ago. And he made that his last, well, he didn't know it obviously at the time. That was his last time at Ground Zero. And he and I had been friends for a couple of years. And, you know, he had left his state of Vermont or New York, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on his way down to Florida to live there. And he was in his van and made one last stop in New York there. And I was so happy I met him. He was just an absolute sweetheart of a person. And yeah, so I cherish that picture a lot because little did we know that he only had less than a year left. So
right. I wanted to show you. So I put out these signs, and then when Stephanie, if I could find it, yeah, here we go. I'll put out my large signs, and in the recent years, I have banners that are even more visible from far away. But then Augie and Stephanie bring these small boards with just pieces of paper for the more detailed information that people can see up close and on different topics. And it's great because from far away, people see the big banners and they come in close and they'll huddle around these little information boards and just sit and read and take it in. This is Augie and Stephanie, fantastic couple. I showed this before, but we had drawn in chalk. This is Al Lucientes. The police came by and I said, it's only chalk. And he said, well, Al's trying to fight for me here. And eventually said, no, we need you to remove it. So Sandra ran and grabbed some water and yeah, we had to take it off the sidewalk, which is kind of ridiculous.
Based upon what law or regulation?
Yeah, I should have dug my heels in, but I should have had Mick on Mick on call on speed dial there. I probably would have had a great case, a First Amendment case there. But
speaking of making cases, you want to talk about your Pentagon videos case?
the FOIA, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was the end of that year. Before I get to that, there was that Al asked about. Video.
Gene, could you go back to that one on the sidewalk with the smear? I want to point something out.
Okay, let me find it. There it is.
There's a face of a person. Look at it. Eyes, nose, and mouth.
I'm
Yeah.
seeing. I don't know.
Where does that come from?
I don't know.
That's very important.
I'm not seeing it, but
I'm having trouble seeing it too.
Oh my goodness, it's very clear.
I almost see like a little round dude walking.
Can you go back to it? Oh, shoot. You can't see my little arrow, can you?
No.
No.
Oh,
Could you see?
eyes, nose, mouth.
Absolutely. It's an
Yeah.
actual face.
Yeah, okay, I see it now. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Could you send that to us?
sure. I wanted to show one other clip before I got into the legal stuff. If I could find it real quick. Al said, I do get on the bullhorn. I think I did it back here. What year was that? What year did we go? That was the 20th anniversary. where you and I were.
Yeah, I taped you at the 20th and the 21st. I can get all three.
So we went out to, no, it's 2021. And it should be in here. And it's not. I'm going to abandon this in a second here. No, it would have been in there. We went to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York and got on my bullhorn and whooped it up over there.
That's 2022, by the way.
Oh, was it 22?
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder I can't find it in there.
2021 was the.
Are
Oh.
these photos with an iPhone or a smartphone of some kind?
A smartphone, yeah. Give me 1 second here. Gene search. And this would be attorney's office. If it doesn't pop here, I'll abandon it. And it's not. Oh well. Yeah.
Maybe Foley?
Okay, one last try.
Yeah.
No. Oh well.
Oh, well.
As far as what Sue was asking about, in 2018, I filed a FOIA request asking for all videos within 1 mile of the Pentagon. We thought we would get around the original. There was original 85 videos that was requested with Judicial Watch by Scott Bingham, and they released 2 videos from the pulling in at that one pull-in area of the Pentagon, and then they gave us another video from one of the gas stations over there. They wouldn't really give anything else, so we thought, okay, I'm going to circumvent that and ask for all videos within 1 mile of the Pentagon. And they got back to me and said we cannot put distance stamps on everything easily, so we're not going to release anything to you. But we found roughly about 100 videos that have not been reviewed. So I came back a little bummed out, told Mick, and he says, no, that's a good thing. We've got them on the hook now that they have 100 unreviewed videos. So Mick, in the past little while, I want to say last year and a half, I got Sandra to sign on with me in this new version of that FOIA request. And Mick basically made it very articulate and even more defined that we do want those 100 videos, and then he expounded on it. And the Department of Justice got back to me and said that we have the videos, but there would be a charge of $24,880 to release those to you. So we found out after the fact that there's a little rule that if a journalist is involved in that FOIA request, you could waive those fees. And still working with Mick on whether he wants to refile, but the Department of Justice said they also have 7 years to reply, which is just absurd. And that's how they play this game with us. So,
Yeah,
Dean,
and
I believe Mick said that you'd have to refile from the beginning again if you added the media plaintiff, right?
yes.
well, there were 2 options. It was either to do that or to stall, well, not stall, but to see with them and say, okay, well, we don't necessarily want all the 100 videos. Why don't you send us a list of what is on those videos, and we'll tell you which ones we'd like, and we'll pay only for those, so that it wouldn't cost us $24,000.
And has Mick put that through yet?
Well, I think basically the option has been to refile, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, so you've decided not to do that? Is that correct?
I don't think we haven't decided not to. It's kind of a mixed court right now, I guess we'll say.
You mean which option? Because
Yeah.
I think what you're saying, well, let me ask this a question. Is what you're saying, at least as Mick understands it, that you could, under the existing FOIA lawsuit, that you could go back and say, no, review them and let us know what they are. Give us a list of the gist of the content. We'll get back to you. You wouldn't have to refile for that, would you?
No, we would not. We would not. But from what I understand, Mika decided that that was not necessarily the better way to go.
I understand. Okay. So I believe that, what was the guy's name? John Clark. He was on our board, the Lawyers Committee board, for a while.
Mhm.
And Jane Clark, no relation that they know of, Jane Clark of the Lawyers Committee told our board meeting a number of times that John Clark has already sent, maybe you have it, has already sent, because he does lots of FOI lawsuits, that he's already sent the formal statement of what constitutes a media person or a media outlet to refile, if you refile.
Hmm.
Do you have that?
I'm aware of it, but I don't know if I have that. No.
Okay, because what I recommend you do, seeing as Mick is taking forever to do things these days, as usual, what I recommend is that you get in touch with John Clark and ask him to send that to you directly, and then ask him questions about it.
Okay.
Because that, you can at least narrow down the possibilities of who would be at least one media contact. The more the better, and the more mainstream the better. It's hard to get a mainstream person to do anything for 9/11 Truth. But I think, who's the host of Redacted again? What's his name?
Like Morris.
Clayton Morris. Yeah, he's so good. And
Yeah.
he's got a huge following, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he might qualify. Anyway, I would recommend getting in touch if you want. Do you have John Clark's contact information?
I believe I do. Thank you. Yes.
I think you should do that.
Okay. So here was the original 2018 FOIA request. Here's the response. There's an additional footage, approximately 100 videos. However, this material has not been reviewed. Here was the original 85. At that time, I thought that the 85th was the one that they released to us, but as I understand, there were about 3 videos that they had released to us. So mine is an addition to this one from Scott Bingham.
Yeah, by the way, the original 85, this is important to know. The so-called FOIA officer who got back, her name is, I believe, something McGuire, Jennifer McGuire, something like that. Turns out that she was the Pentagon's, the Department of Defense's representative against the 9/11 victims' family members' lawsuit against Saudi Arabia when they tried to get more of the videos. So she's a really bad actor. But the other thing to know about these 85, she called herself the FBI's, or she called herself the FOIA officer. And she claimed in her response to this FOIA request years ago that she had gone through all of them, at least partially, and that there was only one, she claimed, because the FOIA request for anything that showed a crash or explosion at the Pentagon, and it didn't say a plane, but anyway, and she got back, well, there's only one. Now that was the response after somebody, Pentagon or FBI, maybe her, leaked the original 5 frames. But before the Moussaoui trial, when we learned that there were 2 outdoor security camera videos. So she said there was only one, but the one they released was one of the 2 that we learned about. There were actually 2 close to each other in the Moussaoui trial. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that we now know also that these 85 were not all from the Pentagon.
Yes.
We know that because James Gorley, who's an attorney, who was the convener of the Toronto 9/11 hearings for the 10th anniversary and the editor of the 9/11 Toronto report, he actually did an FOIA himself, even though he's, I believe, Canadian, or maybe he had somebody else do it anyway. He was behind a different FOIA request, and I have that in my computer if you want it, the response, or his his notes about it, one or the other, can't remember at the moment, but I could send it to you. In
Yes,
which he
please.
learned that they're not all about, those 85 were not all about the Pentagon. They're also about the World Trade Center.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, it's absurd when you have highway cameras like this one, camera 740, that would have seen everything clear as day. And as we know, the several cameras on the roof line of the Pentagon, it's completely absurd. The one on the fire station at the Pentagon. And then we have even cameras at the Sheridan that they removed. Oh, I thought I had it in here. No, I don't. You could actually, there's pictures here where you could see the water stains after they removed the cameras. So,
Guys, can we pick this up in the war room? We got a fair amount of stuff to cover tonight. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
nope, you're good. And I did
sorry.
want to share also, Al, you had asked for a little quick video clip. Here's me outside the U.S. Attorney's office whooping it up. I'll just show this real quick, if I can.
Of New York in that building acknowledged the receipt of 60 exhibits for the control coalition of World Trade Center buildings 1, 2, and 7. They said that they would present that evidence to a grand jury per federal statute 18 USC 3332. That's their duty to present the evidence to a grand jury. Not only is it their duty, it's our First Amendment constitutional right to petition a government, a grand jury, for a redress of grievances. They're refusing to do that now and going to court to prevent that evidence from being presented to a grand jury. Why? Why would a government entity fight not to present the evidence to a grand jury? Because they're trying to cover it up. There's bad cops in that building.
I think that says it very thoroughly.
Hey, Gene, I'm
Yes.
about to lose the charge on my computer. Could I take 30 seconds to tell people about the Dallas event?
That's on my show.
That's-
It's up to them.
What is this, Barbara? I'm sorry.
Well,
missed
I
this.
believe Sue Serpa sent everybody yesterday or the day before the flyer for this truly historic event in Dallas that I'm co-producing on November 21st and 22nd, Tuesday and Wednesday. The man who claims, and I believe him, I've read his book, I've done interviews with him that are online. His name is James File. He claims to have been the grassy knoll shooter with a headshot of JFK. He is making a public confession at a press conference I'm co-producing in Dallas. And I just paid for an ad in Sunday's main section of the Dallas Morning News that reaches 1 million people. There's the flyer. So if you don't have it, ask Sue Serpa for it. So if you know anybody, it was sent to you by Sue yesterday or the day before as an attachment to the notice, the second notice she sent for this call today, this Zoom call. And if you know anybody in Texas, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please, as soon as you can, forward it to them. So thank you. Just wanted to let everybody know.
Thank you.
Just to wrap up our segment here, some other quick things. Let's see here. Where'd it go? Sorry, I got too many things open now. There it is. Community Hub. This was an effort that we would all be able to connect with each other outside of social media. It's called the 9/11 Community Hub at 9/11communityhub.org. This way, we can, if you want, you could share as little or as much information you'd like to about yourself, but it lets us know where we are in relation to one another. That way you could come in and see who your neighbors are. You can even filter this list and say, I would like to find out everybody that's involved and likes street activism. And it will only list those folks that are interested in street activism as an example of how much information you could put in here, because I filled the whole thing out. Again, you don't have to put anything. You put a private email address and a public email address. The private email address, people will only be able to contact you through this form. and the public won't see that private email address. Then you can put, you know, things that you're interested in: street activism, artistic activism, written outreach, fundraising, event organizing. And then the subject matter that you're interested in: the Pentagon, Shanksville, legal action, geopolitics, and anthrax, and World Trade Center.
But the
And
thing-
can you leave out your actual street address and just put your state?
Yep. Yep.
I think, don't you have to put a city in?
I think it's city is the most stringent that we have that's a required
Yeah,
field.
I think just the city, just because, you know, if you put California, that's pretty large. You know, because the beauty of this is that if you travel, you go to visit, you know, your aunt at the other on the other side of the country, you can check this map and see who is there. And, you know, Gene and I are in Florida this week, and we connected with 2 people who live in Florida, and we met them yesterday, spent lunch with one, supper with the other. And there's just something so powerful in actually, yeah. So that was Trina, and this is Max, or Marijan is what he is.
He goes by on Facebook. Yeah, it's great to meet each other.
Yeah, so it was, yeah, and the connection thing with truth activists is what's so powerful. And when you get to know people, you know, in real life, it's very different than dealing with them just behind a keyboard and, you know, a profile picture and a name on social media. It's not the same thing.
Yep. And the last thing I want to mention, it's a news item that we're all going to be talking about. This huge German professor after 22 years. His name is Maximilian Rupert. He is a structural engineer and a demolitions expert. He's come out and said, we immediately knew on 9/11 that it was a controlled demolition. I made a couple of memes from it. Bringing down this type of building really means 2 years of the hardest work and preparation, both in terms of engineering and calculations. Fantastic video. If you get a chance to it, I made a shortcut link. All you have to put in is 911warroom.com/911max, and it will go right to the video. Sandra and I worked really hard and put in all the English subtitles so we can understand it. You don't have to understand.
Ordentlich gefeiert, wie sich das halt auch gehört. Ich meine, man forscht da wirklich.
It was all German to me. But this is huge news. Fantastic. I know he spoke out 22, 23 years later, but as we said before we were recording, he got his title, he got his money, all his accolades, and now he had said that, you know, I didn't want to lose everything I had worked for. And it's probably the main reason why a lot of people aren't speaking out. They just don't want to be ostracized. So it's great that he's speaking out. This might actually push people in that community.
He literally said, he goes, I really don't care what people say. He goes, what are they going to call me? A conspiracy theorist?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yes. Yep. So fantastic. And that's about it for us.
I was wondering if Professor Halsey can be sent this link to
That's
this
another
other
one.
Professor Max.
I will do that. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, we were thinking of, oh my God, we just looked him up before. Tom
Sullivan,
Sullivan,
the
yeah,
controlled demolition expert on Experts Speak Out.
yeah.
Gene, I want to thank you for sharing the graphic for the old A&E T-shirt, which should be arriving here on Saturday.
Nice.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank
Um,
you.
You
Yeah.
guys,
Thank
Let's
you.
start
You're doing
right.
great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
for those watching, again, if you anytime you want to join us, any given Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, 911warroom.com.
Gene, one last thing I wanted to ask you. The Pennsylvania court case that you and Mick are proposing or have, I don't know if it's been filed or what, but you know, thinking about here in Massachusetts and how we might go about doing it, but that's a great idea. You might want to enlighten us on that a little bit, just touch on it, because I don't want to get too far into the weeds.
So Mick and I have talked. Another avenue of legal strategy was that we could get grand juries in every state. First, primarily the the states of more importance, which would be obviously New York, California, Florida, because of some of the hijackers were staying down there. Pennsylvania to a certain degree because the dancing Israelis drove through and got pulled over in Pennsylvania
In Shanksville.
and Shanksville.
Boston, because the planes were supposedly out of Boston.
Yep. So all of
Yeah.
those reasons for those states primarily. But I have the extra luxury that Mick is a Pennsylvania lawyer, and I also am in the same state as Bob McIlvaine in Orland, PA, which if anybody watched The Unspeakable, after several calls to Bob from myself, Bob had at first reluctantly didn't want the autopsy report because Helen, his wife, didn't really want the autopsy report seen. But after enough goading, AE, I didn't know that they did this, but I'm glad they did. They reached out to Bob and Cyril Wecht. If anybody knows who Cyril Wecht is, he's an international forensic pathologist. He was part of the JFK autopsies. He did, in The Unspeakable, review Bobby McIlvaine's autopsy report and said, without a doubt, that those traumatic things that happened to him were from an explosive effect.
Wow.
So I would like to use that as a grand jury petition, because Bob actually, obviously has standing. He suffered injury there through his son. So that is my hope, and I'm ready to pony up some more money for that. And Mick said that he would start talking to me because things were busy for him right now, but we'll be pursuing that shortly.
Excellent.
Great.
Thanks,
Well, I want to
everybody.
thank you guys
Mhm.
for coming on, and if you want to stick around, we're going into a lot of the same subject matter. We look to you as leadership,
Thank
and
you.
certainly have done a lot to inspire our group, or me personally. So
Vice versa. Thank you.
yeah, and incredible amount of work you guys have put into it. Just
It's
amazing.
mostly Gene.
No, very cool.
Mostly Gene.
Yeah,
Now,
he
don't
does
forget
all the hard
yourself,
work.
Sandra. You do a marvelous job of moderating too, I might add.
Yeah, I just try to let not the wheels not come off.
Right. And there are a lot of wheels.
A lot of wheels and a lot of balls up in the air.
Yeah. So, unless anybody has more questions for Sandra and Jean, we can try to cover some of the agenda items that were put out to everybody as part of this, guess you want to call it a show tonight. Speak up now, or we're going to get into some interesting things that happened just within the past couple of days. And one was a discussion in a Zoom meeting with the JFK Peace Speech Committee that Miles Flagg had so nicely sent to us in the link to get on their meeting. And it's an important anti-war group. I'll let Miles talk about it if he wants. But our whole point of being there was to try to get Graham McQueen's movie, The Peace, War, and 9/11, as part of their presentation of the JFK film, which they're wanting to put out. And I guess there's some division. They have been a part of MAPPA, and that's the Mass Action Peace group. And they kind of decided they're going to go their own way. And they were talking about being the film would be at the Boston Community Church, and the likelihood of us being able to piggyback Graham McQueen's DVD in addition to what they were presenting. We made, I thought, some important inroads into that group. I was very happy with it, that they are aware of it, and some of their members are very welcoming to us. Others were not so welcoming.
Well,
And,
what was really shocking is one of the members is a defender, a legal representative for Guantanamo detainees.
right, yeah,
And he just vehemently was against any what he thought of as infiltration from 9/11 truth.
right.
He goes by the blowback theory.
Yep.
And that is incredibly shocking to me that he believes his defense for these detainees is that they were pushed to terrorism for as retribution for American war crimes.
Exactly.
I'm just like, oh my God, that's your defense? No wonder these poor fellows are, rotting in Guantanamo all these years if they get this kind of representation.
And you were so clever to remind him that what's his name? Sheikh I forget his name, but
Mohammed,
guy,
I always butcher his name.
the guy that got waterboarded 125
Yeah, he said, he
times.
was saying even he confessed. I said, yeah, after being waterboarded 186 times.
And he was defending these guys. I mean, it was the most
shocking.
disingenuous.
He still is defending them. He still
right.
is defending them. And just to
Shocking.
note, he's a member of Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity. And it's like, wow. And anyhow, he basically, I think we scared him so much, we shook his foundation so much with what you said, Sue. And then I'm telling him that we have professional engineers saying Building 7, for example, could not have collapsed by planes alone or ordinary office fires. And he got so nervous that I thought I heard him say just before he departed that, oh, well, there's some things we can't let American people know. And then he said, well, I'm getting too stretched too thin, and I think I need to leave this group. And I'll talk to the chairman later. So he's actually fled, is my sense. We scared him so much, because if he's been a lawyer representing the so-called defending Guantanamo inmates, as you said, Gene, earlier, he can't unhear what he just heard. I said, there's Professor J. Leroy Halsey, University of Alaska, has done this analysis. So anyway, quite shocking.
No, it was quite interesting. And
but the rest of the group was very sympathetic and embracing of our message.
The chairman especially, he was totally on board, which led me to believe that we did get a pretty good connection with them, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Well, one thing I would like to just add, unfortunately, Barbara's not here already still, but back in September, I was lobbying this JFK Peace Speech Committee, which does a monthly webinar with a special guest who is a commentator. After watching the 20-minute JFK Peace Speech, the guest commentator is given the floor, and then there's to say what the impact of the speech is on them and their life, and then there's a Q&A. So, recently was Scott Ritter, but I had proposed to Barbara Honegger that she be a presenter, and I connected her with Martin Schatz, the chairman. So I was hoping I'd be able to ask her, what did she learn? Because I connected the both of them, and because he's written books about the JFK assassination. So anyway, ultimately,
Barbara is one of them. But both Jane Clark and Barbara are very deep into the JFK assassination. They always attend meetings on the JFK assassination. That's another piece of their activism.
So it's essentially this JFK Peace Speech Committee, this committee that's part of this bigger organization called Massachusetts Peace Action. They've decided that because they've set all these hoops up recently, because some people got their noses bent out of shape that Scott Ritter was presented. The one person of their board of directors of the mother organization actually resigned over Scott Ritter presenting. Then other people, even Ray McGovern, who's speaking next week on the anniversary, November 22nd, of the assassination of President Kennedy. Even the board of directors was trying to block Ray McGovern, so anyhow, ultimately this Peace Speech Committee is going to depart after Ray McGovern's presentation. They're going to Community Church of Boston, and the Community Church of Boston has 24,000 YouTube subscribers compared to Massachusetts Peace Action has 10,000 subscribers. The Scott Ritter commentary video had 127,000 views on the Community Church of Boston channel, 127,000 views. The MAPA channel only had 6,300. So this is actually a good development. It's all positive in my opinion. No more censorship, no more having to jump through these hoops, better exposure.
Yeah.
What is our chance of getting Graham McQueen's DVD, having them show it to their, or at least present it?
Well, that's not how it works. Again, every month what they do is they present the JFK speech. It happens every month on the 10th, and then someone like in December it'll be international lawyer Alfred DeZayas doing a commentary. So the commentators are live. Like Scott Ritter was live in the webinar, and then people had an opportunity you tried to do some, because of the MAPA board of directors trying to block free speech, Alfred, you could only submit questions in the chat. They had changed the rules on you and me. I was traveling at the time, and it wasn't convenient for me to call in, but we should hopefully now be free of this censorship. With your initiative, though, you could do something similar, but a little bit different in that you could say we're promoting the JFK peace speech and this video viewing of Peace, War, 9/11. Now, if you could get a guest commentator of someone, to be at that event in Boston, if you get the theater, that'd be, really wonderful. But it's up I want to do it here in Calgary. I will show the JFK peace speech, and I'll just sort of copy this concept of, because it's such a powerful anchor. This is one of the world's greatest speeches, the greatest speech of a president probably, and it's been repressed, it's been suppressed. A lot of people have never heard of it. Helen Caldicott, the renowned nuclear activist doctor out of Australia, Martin Shorts contacted her. They had a one-on-one meeting, and he played the speech, and she had never heard of it. Yet she is famous for all the anti-nuclear activism she's done over a lifetime, and she had never seen this JFK peace speech from June 10, 1963. It was just shocking.
Yeah.
But it's a great foundation for 9/11, in my opinion.
At the least, in promoting McQueen's video, if they would allow us to put it out on their mailing list.
Well, that's more likely now, that with this Community Church of Boston, I think they're much more open-minded. I'm hoping, because another guest speaker I was working with was a prominent scientist named Dr. Rao. Now, he's about veganism, and now I'm not vegan. Put a piece of bacon in front of me, I'm probably going to eat it. But
Susan,
it's
don't
just
listen
'cause-
to him.
just because I don't, it's like anything. I have to be open to all information, and maybe, I need to incorporate some of this information. It's just like, oh yeah, I need to be open to what the hell happened to Building 7.
What
It's
about
this
Building 4?
Well, whatever. You tell me about Building 4. I don't know that much about it. But anyway, it's like, this business is censoring people unless they're, in jail and have been convicted. People should have a right, and we as citizens have a right to cross-examine these people, whoever it is, So I don't want to monopolize this, but yeah, it's just nothing but positive. I'd say that they're going to leave MAPA, Massachusetts Peace Action, and move to this Community Church of Boston. You can maybe get the Boston 9/11 truth people down to Community Church of Boston and start pressing the flesh with these people.
Absolutely.
And see where it goes.
Is Henry still on the call?
No,
Oh, he left. That's too bad.
we got a while back.
We had following that, or prior to that Zoom meeting on the same day, we had a planning session, a working group that consists of Sue, myself, Ted Walter, Chris Gruner, Henry, and we went over this very subject of how to promote it, when to put it out, when was the best timing, and how to get the most eyeballs. And one of the things we talked about was having hosting with the film a discussion group that would include Edward Kurt and Jim Douglas, and I've forgotten the other guy, Dave something or other. Anyway,
Now, just for your information, Alfred, James Douglas's book, which I have here somewhere, JFK, the Unspeakable and the Unspeakable.
we sponsored him here in Boston many years ago.
And this book is actually dedicated to Marty Schatz, the gentleman you were talking to yesterday.
Right.
So, there's all kinds of synchronicities happening here. And forget about MAPA. They're obviously captured, or something's going on. As far as Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, they seem to be captured. Ray McGovern continues to trot out the standard narrative. So I don't know what's going on there, but maybe this Community Church of Boston, again, 127,000 YouTube subscribers I'm sorry, 24,000 YouTube subscribers.
Right.
That's not bad. And if you can, if they are open to you, it'd be just
We're
fantastic.
definitely pursuing that. I mean, in our next meeting, the working group, I've forgotten when our next meeting is actually, but this is the utmost importance in my mind to discuss this and getting this out, and being a part of the
yeah, and I want to track along with you because I want to emulate this here in Calgary.
Sure.
Great.
And I was just looking at the venue. I don't know, there's synchronicities happening all the time. I want to connect this with Truth and Reconciliation. The Tsuut'ina Nation has a brand new event center with meeting rooms. You know what it's called? The Seven Chiefs Sportsplex and Event Center. Seven Chiefs. Everything's seven. So that's okay. It's a slam dunk. I'm going to go over there and start inquiring with them. I want to do this and put on events, and I have a concept of how I can get out and hand out little tickets. It's going to be free, but I'll be just going person to person to boomers of my own generation, trying to sell them on it first.
So
But yeah, let's track.
we settled on possibly March, right? Isn't
For,
that
for
what?
the film, you mean? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, it
Ah.
really depends on, how quickly, the one concern I had was that, with all of the anti-war groups, at fever pitch right now, you
Mhm.
don't want to lose that momentum by waiting too
Right.
long.
But
And-
we don't have the DVD, we don't have it, the file. I nudged Ted Walter for that.
Right,
So, we could do it fast or we could do it right.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
and to have the proposed panel discussion following the film, that'll take some time to line these people up. Ed Curtin, Jim Douglas, David Llewellyn, and how do you pronounce that? Mahadava Seti?
study, yeah, right.
Yep,
Well, these are all things, I mean, we've just had one meeting so far, so
right. And our next
obviously,
meeting is what, December 5th?
yes, correct, yeah.
Yep,
So, anyway,
we're
but
we're
it's a
working,
great,
moving forward on this.
wonderful opportunity for Boston 9/11 Truth. I mean, I've been beating the drums forever about penetrating the anti-war movement, and to me, this is the biggest opening I've seen. How we had been turned away in the past, and now very much, I was amazed at the chairman and how absolutely on board he is with the whole 9/11 story. So it's good news all around, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
and anyway, so that's the two. That was item 3. Item 4, I don't know if any of you have listened to Paul Craig Roberts' interview.
Yep.
Where he is talking about the amount of military presence that we now have in the Middle East, and how dangerous this is. And he's convinced that there's going to be a false flag attack on either the carrier groups or something that'll set off and get us involved in attacking Iran. So it's an interesting take that he has. The guy, I think it's the Dialogue Works is the name of the interview. I didn't get the guy's name that was doing the interview, but and Jeffrey Sachs also has come out and very much with the idea that this is just a false flag waiting to happen. So anybody that doesn't understand false flags, and you go back to 9/11, and these guys are really in a panic over what they think is coming, and it's worth listening to what they have to say. There was also Karen Kowalski, former U.S. Air Force colonel, in her book Freedom to Have Peace. There was an interview, and I never was clear on her stance on 9/11. She had come out early on, and I don't know if any of you are aware of who she is and what she but she was sort of a 9/11 questioner, I guess, on some level, and I'm not well versed on it, so I was hoping somebody in the group tonight might know more about it.
Well, I'll just say that she was a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force in an office position, an intelligence position of some sort, and she recognized that in the lead up to the invasion of Iraq, that the intelligence was being manipulated and twisted to set to an agenda that we must invade Iraq, and then feeding that to the president, is my understanding. and she thought this is unethical. And so she was a whistleblower, received the Sam Adams Whistleblowing Award eventually for this. So her whistleblowing is about the falsification of intelligence that led to an illegal invasion of Iraq in 2003. With respect to what happened on 9/11, I don't know what if she's just she's fine with the official narrative, or does she support any alternative narratives? She is also a founder of Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity. And, you know, it would be interesting to survey all of these VIPSs to see if any of them support a alternative view to the official narrative, because so far, to my listening to any of them, Larry Johnson, Scott Ritter, Karen Kwiatkowski, this gentleman who's the lawyer we just talked about, and I don't know, there's some others, but I've never heard any of these people say, oh yeah, there's something wrong with the official narrative. But we should push them on it somehow.
Well, that's exactly
us
what
can.
I wanted to get to, particularly with Scott Ritter. You know, I would love to have him join our group or somehow be involved in a discussion, because he doesn't back down from anybody. After listening to many hours of his podcasts, and I just think I just really wonder whether this is his the final, or the one thing he won't talk about, meaning 9/11. And
Yeah, and confronting them with J. Leroy Halsey's structural engineering analysis, and now this new German engineer, you know, this would be great to put it in front of all these veteran intelligence professionals for sanity and say, okay, here's some intelligence friends. Your reaction,
Ray McGovern
please.
is on board with 9/11. I mean, I don't think he's ever been wavering in his talks about what
Okay,
happened.
I've never heard him say that he doesn't. He's never, to me, I've listened to a lot of them, but he always just seems to always fall back to, oh yes, you know, we were attacked on this day, and I could be wrong, but that's all I've ever heard from Ray
Well,
McGovern.
my experience with him is he was part of the original 2006 Tea Party, and spoke. I mean, the whole Tea Party was about 9/11 being a false flag, and we dumped the 9/11 Commission report into the 4-Point Channel in Boston, and he was right there with us. And so I never questioned him as being wavering on 9/11. So I don't
Okay,
know.
yeah, I'm not. I don't want to speak
He
for
and
him.
Bob Bowman were very vocal early on, way early on, you know, when we first started down this road. So, and he came to Boston. I mean, Barbara, I think Hanukkah had a lot to do with bringing those people in to the Boston event. That was just when I joined, and I wasn't sure.
2006.
Right. Yep. That was 2006.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Perhaps
but it was,
I listened to him a lot on his commentary about Ukraine and now Hamas, Israel, and perhaps he just presents the standard line because he's doesn't want to have backlash if he was to say, well, you know, 9/11, you know, because he's on a lot of shows, Judge Napolitano and such, and maybe he doesn't want to, you know, throw too much controversy at people and affect his perhaps being terminated or canceled culture kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I still would love to be able to, I mean, I like it could have ever getting them on our bi-weekly meetings is pretty remote, but as a speaker. But you know, no reason not to keep trying. I think Gene, you've tried to reach out to him, meaning Scott Ritter. Am I correct in that? Yeah. And so these guys have huge followings now, particularly over their positions on the Ukraine and Israel. And it's you know, they're at the high point of their popularity with anti-war people. So, you know, if anybody has any way of connecting with these guys, you know, we're looking for more speakers in this Boston group, and hopefully we'll get some more on. I don't know on the next item. Well, updates on Papa. We've been having meetings, and I don't even think we can go into that right now because it's getting late, and it's basically boils down to money. But we're still moving forward with the Orlando June date.
Yeah, there's a link there to donate, you know.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
$5, $10, $100,
Yeah,
whatever you
any-
can.
whatever you got. Sue and I have put in some, and Gene have put in some seed money. So, you know, hats off to everybody that's willing to pony up. Richard Kreshnick's talk on YouTube. I'm trying to remember when was that? Do you recall when he was interviewed?
About a month ago, and I couldn't find it to do a link.
Yeah, because that was very, I mean, he did a great job. And I'm trying to remember the other people that were part of that show. But I'll have to ask him. I'm sorry to see that he left tonight. So I was hoping I would have get him included and describing what he did there. We covered the grand jury lawsuit in Pennsylvania and how to try it in Massachusetts. So, you know, thank you, Gene, for covering that briefly. I don't know who's going to take the lead here in Massachusetts, if anybody, but it's certainly worth a try.
So
Yeah.
from what Mick and I are doing, hopefully we can get a template down that we could use state to state, I think.
Yeah, no, that would be great. It really be helpful to know, you know, what the best course of action is on that.
Yeah,
I
I was
don't know.
just looking up Richard Kreshnick. He was on November
Oh,
1st with 9/11 Truth and Deep State Call.
that's right. That was it. Yep.
Yeah,
We should post the link somehow to
yeah.
let people who didn't see it.
Is that the
Is-
one with Craig McKee?
Yes.
Yes, that was Craig McKee. You're right. Yep. That was his show,
Hmm.
or whatever you want to call it.
So we should be able to find that. But I'm out of time. I'm flying out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, but I'm sure if you go Craig McKee and Richard Kreshnick, you Google it, it should come up, right?
I think you need to do the 9/11 Deep State. I think it's on Rumble. And go to
Oh.
the November 1st, because he was not a headliner.
Right. No, he was one of several.
Yeah,
What'd you say, November 3rd?
1st.
1st, okay. I'll look that up. And finally, our next event, and unfortunately, Chris is not here with us, but he goes down dressed up as John Hancock to the Old North Church for the Tea Party reenactment. I don't know how much they're doing down there this year. It got, I think, rained out last year, or almost rained out. But he hands out the Halsey description of the whatever that whatever you
Building
call it.
7. Yeah.
The what? Building 7, right? And then he also does the lawyers committee, and it has a nice little one-page sheet that he hands out to people and asks them if they're concerned about their freedom. And
Yeah, you can see his picture on our website. So,
right, yeah, you see what he looks like, and if you go back in time, you can see him down there in downtown Boston. It's usually bitterly cold down there. I mean, I've been down there other than last year, which I had my knee surgery, but I'm hoping I'll get down there with him this year. And that's about a wrap. Those were the 11 things that were part of the agenda for tonight. We're open to any further discussion, unless people want to call it an evening. And any questions or whatever you got. I was hoping to see Jean and Sandra in Speedos and down by the beach.
Sunburn.
We wish so too.
Here's my banana hammock.
I didn't want to go that far.
All right.
is that a banana in your pocket, or are you
Yeah,
happy to
just
see
happy to
me?
see me. Well, have some fun down there. I hope you do something other than 9/11.
Well, we only have a day left at this point. We
Okay.
fly back out on Saturday morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Down in
Alfred?
Tequila or something, I don't know. But thank you very
Alfred?
much for showing up.
Miles has his hand up.
Yeah, go Miles, what do you got?
Yeah, just a plug for the November 22nd webinar featuring Ray McGovern. His commentary related to the John F. Kennedy peace speech is titled, "Will We Let Them Kill Peace?" And you can register for this live event at masspeaceaction.org and look for the Ray McGovern November 22nd event. Anybody who gets an opportunity to ask Mr. McGovern a question might be able to ask him, is he aware of Professor Halsey's analysis of the structural global collapse of Building 7 and could not have been done by ordinary office fires? And now this new engineer from Germany, and see what kind of reaction Ray McGovern gives.
Yep.
I'll try to do it.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. I'd love to hear that.
I'm gonna
It'd be
be
nice to have a-
occupied with family, so but I understand it'll be recorded so I can watch it afterwards.
Yep.
We'll be
All
thinking.
right, for Miles, anytime you're interested, I'd be glad to do a Zoom one-on-one with you and go into any of the subjects that we cover on 9/11 synthesis.
We'll be thinking about you
All
guys.
right, thank you.
Whose
wow,
feet
look
are
at that.
those?
That's me.
Whose feet are those?
That's me by the poolside. That's
Oh,
beautiful.
that's you. Okay.
That's wonderful. Thanks again, guys, for everything.
Beautiful
Yeah, we'll
pool.
see you Sunday night, right? Are you gonna be there?
Enjoy.
Yep, we'll be live.
Okay, wonderful. And anybody that has any ideas for speakers for us, don't hesitate to let us know.
All right.
Oh, I'll work on Ray McGovern. I did visit Wexler's office way back in 2009 with Ray McGovern, so yeah.
Okay.
Have a little connection there.
Well, we need to push him up against the wall if he has doubts, but I don't believe that.
Okay.
I think he's a truther from way back.
Yeah, he just doesn't put it out front because
All right.
Miles said, yeah, he doesn't want
Cancel culture.
right.
I wouldn't put him up against the wall. I would embrace him.
Yeah, right. Well, whatever you want to do. He's an old guy.
An embrace would work.
All right, well.
Can I bring up a
on
couple?
that one.
Can I bring up a couple of things?
Yeah, sure, John. Haven't heard a word from you.
Yeah. Number one, have you noticed that the various PR propaganda techniques that are being used to deal with the war in Gaza that are very similar to what was used on 9/11? In fact, one of the really good ones of the babies being thrown out of incubators onto the floor. I've
Yeah.
had a number of people tell me that the Arabs did that. The Arabs did that when they invaded Kuwait, and they don't even know that that was a false story.
Right.
Well,
And
Richard Gage is working on a parallel between 9/11 and Gaza, and it's really shaping up beautifully. So hopefully he'll release that pretty soon. He's got several parallels between the Gaza false flags and 9/11 false flags.
My other point is that I really think we need to somehow get a library so that these videos don't get lost forever.
I suggest, look, if these
Not a library that you go visit, but that everybody has copies of the videos or something like that.
1990, Iraq.
Yeah.
Well, Gene, you have something like that, a library, don't you?
Digital library on my computer, yeah.
Yeah.
And you keep it safe on a stick somewhere or a separate drive?
Yep, external hard drive always.
Excellent.
Well, Amuka's got a huge number of videos, and so does Barton Bruce.
Yep.
So if we
yeah.
had if they were available, you know, and when we need them, like that one that was just played in the background, they'll be there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got anything else, John? Oh, there you go.
No, that's it. It's just I've been seeing a huge amount of propaganda. I studied it in graduate school, and every day more propaganda techniques are being used, just like on 9/11.
Oh, yeah. No question about that.
These stories that are created, they just live on forever, manufacturing the public myth.
Yep.
Yep.
My wife's best friend was married to, or had been married to a Palestinian. She goes over to Palestine all the time.
Oh, wow.
And she's just outraged at what's going on. And her daughters are still living over there.
Oh, my God.
And, they try to call her as best they can. But, you know, I mean, you talk to her about the Israelis and you get a whole different story about what's going on there and in Hamas. And you just don't hear it anymore. You know, it's like you have to search it out to get the other side of the story and what's happening. But yeah, the parallels.
The good news is that I think people are searching these things out, or also, you know, because we've seen millions standing up for ceasefire.
Right.
What was that?
Sorry.
Oh.
Russell Brand interviewed Alex Jones about whether he's a controlled opposition. That's probably watching.
Oh, that sounds juicy.
Yeah.
I like Russell Brand.
Yep.
Me too.
All right, cool.
We done here?
Search that out. I think we're done. All right. You just gotta watch paint dry while this recording downloads, and then watch it dry again while it uploads to send it all out.
I feel your pain deeply.
Thanks again, guys.
All right.
Guys.
Thank
What do you
you.
got there? What do you got there, Lawrence? I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway,
Okay,
good-
It's
hold on a
medicine.
That's it.
Dope, it's medicine.
Muscle.
I gotta flip the camera so I can see what we're looking at here. Flip. Okay.
Uh,
Thank you,
That's blurry.
John.
that's
Good
how we
night.
all are.
Good night, everyone.
Bye,
On
guys.
that note,
See some of you Sunday.
Okay, what
I won't see you Sunday. I'm with family and preoccupied.
All good.
Safe travels.
Okay.
All righty.
Bye.
Have a good one.